Hey, Fort Wayne, welcome back to another episode of Fort Wayne Footy. It was another beautiful night last night at Bishop Darcy Stadium as Fort Wayne FC played to a record crowd, another record crowd for the season. Seems to increase every weekend, which is fantastic. In their win over the Dayton Dutch Lions, a 4-2 exciting victory in extra time, which we'll get into a little bit later in the match. It was good physical match all the way through. Chaos broke out in the last 8 minutes of 3 minutes of extra time, which, always gives the fans something to get excited about. We'll get into that. We'll have an interview with Fort Wayne FC goalkeeper Aurie Briscoe coming on a little bit later in the show. Maybe a little bit of U.S. men's national team and Gold Cup talk later in the program, but we'll get to that as time permits. My name is Brian Biedenbach. I'm the host of the show. I'm here with two fantastic co-hosts that have joined me the last several weeks here, Micah Middendorf and Dustin Diller. Dustin, I'm going to start with you, man. How you doing tonight?
Good. I'm excited to talk to Ari. We had a great experience at the game last night. I'm excited to talk about that. Excited to get in some talk about men's team, women's team. Yeah.
Well, good. I know Dustin was sitting up a few rows behind me at the match last night, and we're texting back and forth as things are happening on the field. And just a lot happening, a lot of exciting stuff that we've actually talked about in previous shows here that played out in the match last night. So we'll talk about that as we go. Micah, welcome back, man. How are you doing tonight?
Thank you. I'm doing great. A lot of good soccer coming up. A lot of from Gold Cup to Club World Cup to women's national team, men's national team, and the high school summer leagues just started. So finally got my group back on the field. I had a couple sessions with them already this week. We'll have scrimmages next week. So definitely looking forward to a really good summer.
Awesome. Yeah, I was, my son plays high school ball still. He's still in the area. And I know they've got middle school camps that the high school team's coaching this coming week. So I know it's like it just rolls into, we just finished talking about State Cup last weekend. So clubs have just wrapped up. We're going into high school, middle school stuff already. I love that it just rolls into the next, even as a parent. Like, man, you don't ever get a break, but I love it. Getting out there, watching my kids play. I've had a crazy weekend, guys. Let me just tell you, it was graduation weekend for my older son. Graduated from Homestead today. His graduation party was yesterday. So we've had tons of family. We've had friends in town. I didn't sit down yesterday until I got to the bleachers at Fort Wayne FC match. I was walking around taking pictures at my son's party. I came home. I was working on what was I doing? Oh, I had to just empty the car of all the party stuff, right? I showered and then we hit the road to the game. So it was a good time there. Just an emotional weekend though, man. I got up this morning and was working on my daughter's boyfriend's car with him. So that was a lot of fun. And then went out to graduation, and now I get to finally sit down and talk about soccer. So I'm excited. You guys are excited. It's always a good time here. We do want to thank our sponsor before we get too far in the show. FW22 has been a season-long sponsor of ours. You've heard us talk about them as every episode. They've been a season-long sponsor. FW22 is a 501c3 nonprofit organized to facilitate community involvement in the support and assistance of veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury while simultaneously educating on suicide prevention and mental illness. We are grateful for the work that FW22 does, and we're grateful for their sponsorship of Fort Wayne Footy here. So thanks to them. We are looking for additional sponsors, guys. So if you're interested, or you know someone that might be interested in sponsoring a show that is here to celebrate and elevate soccer in the Fort Wayne area, we would love to talk about that and discuss what sponsorship looks like with them. We have season-long sponsors. We have single episode sponsors that we can tell you all about. Guys, as I've done some dreaming to even start this show about soccer in the Fort Wayne area and what it would look like to even have a podcast to do what we're doing. And we got that started. We got our first sponsor. We had an episode sponsor earlier in the season. And it's just got me thinking, like, there's some things that I would love to do if we had additional sponsorship here on the show. For me, I would love to get out some Fort Wayne Footy merch. And there's been some people asking about that. Namely, Dustin and his wife were asking the other night, right? Your wife really wants a Fort Wayne Footy hat.
She wants a hat. She wants a hat.
Like this.
Yep.
I cheated, got my own. But we wanna get some more stuff out there, and additional sponsorship will help us get a merch store going. We'd love to get some stuff out there. We'd love to just get some ads in the program at the Fort Wayne FC matches. That would be a lot of fun. And the biggest thing is we want to add more people to this team. There's a lot of soccer in Fort Wayne, and only so much 3 or 4 of us right now can cover. And so we would love to add additional folks to the team. If you're interested in being part of Fort Wayne Footy, we'd love to talk to you. There's, Summit City United is getting ready to start their second season. We've got high school, we've got college soccer, we've got club soccer. We'd love to get more people involved, but we need additional sponsorship to be able to support the people that are doing that. So if you're interested in sponsoring Fort Wayne Footy, we would love to talk to you about that. Guys, we have a guest backstage who is here to talk about his time with Fort Wayne FC, and I'm excited to bring him on. Aurie Briscoe is a goalkeeper for Fort Wayne FC. This is his 3rd season, and let's just bring him on now. I'll introduce him as he's on screen here. Aurie, man, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Get a chance to see you last night briefly after the match, and was excited to meet you, talk with you there. Aurie Briscoe, this is again your 3rd season with Fort Wayne FC. You've had quite a career so far already with Fort Wayne FC. You played with Rutgers University. I believe I saw you're transferring to Butler University this fall. Had a call up a few years ago to the Puerto Rican national team. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So you've seen the field in a lot of different areas and a lot of different places and had success. It sounds like just about everywhere that you've gone. So we're excited to have you here in Fort Wayne. I'm curious, Aurie, how you landed in Fort Wayne, Indiana to play with Fort Wayne FC a few years ago.
It's funny because one day I was after practice, one of the Rutgers practices, and Coach Mike called me, and he was trying to convince me to come here. And I just heard from the first conversation that we had, and I was already bought in, and I wanted to be a part of this team.
Yeah, I love it. I've heard good things. We talked to Coach Mike a few weeks ago, and I've heard good things about him from players and from fans alike. One of the things I like about Coach Avery is we've seen it. I saw it last weekend when we mentioned it on the show as the kids finished singing the national anthem, and he walked over and shook hands with everybody. I turned to my mom last night, who was in town for the game, and I said, "Mom, watch the coach. Watch us after the national anthem." And he went and chased down the girl that sang the national anthem. And I just thought, what a classy guy. Fans can buy in just watching that. And I know players as well. One of the things, I was a goalkeeper myself, right? Never played at the level that you are playing at or have played at. I did play a season in college before my ACL decided it didn't want to play anymore. But there's a lot of the partnership I watch games, youth games, college games, professional games, the partnership between the goalkeeper and the center back. Yeah. Can you talk? I know you played with Thiago the last couple of seasons. This is your 3rd season playing with him. Can you talk a little bit about, just in general, the partnership between a goalkeeper and a center back, and then maybe more specifically what that looks like for you and Thiago playing just in front of you?
Yeah, I think for me, the most important relationship to have when I'm on the field is definitely with my center back and my outside backs as well, but more so with my center backs because they're right in front of me. The good thing about this team is everybody doesn't know each other at first. So when I first got here, my first year, I was just thrown into the mix, and my first game I played actually against King's Hammer, I didn't know anybody's name. And so over time, Thiago wasn't there the first game, so we were just playing against Cleveland at the time, and then Thiago came along, and then it was the process all over again, getting to know him, and with the more time and more chemistry, I get to figure out how he plays, and he gets to know my tendencies, what do I expect of him, and what he expects of me, and I think having good chemistry with your center back leads to getting shutouts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no doubt. And you've got quite a few of those in your time with
Yeah.
Fort Wayne. We appreciate that as fans.
Yeah, we do. I wanted to throw just a couple questions in there that are a little bit more personal for you, so that, like, people can get to know you a little bit better. But
Yeah.
do you have any specific pregame rituals that you do before the game?
I have a bunch. There's so many. I don't know if you want me to tell you the entire thing.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to tell us, whatever you want to share.
First thing is after a team meeting is go to sleep.
Yeah.
Gotta take a nap before the game because I just gotta get as rested as I can. I get to the field. I usually like to ride with Nam. I don't know why it's with Nam, but usually it would be with Nam.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll get to the field. First thing I'll do, take a shower, get all the day off of me. Then listen to my pregame music. I like Bad Bunny, Loa La L, a lot of Puerto Rican artists.
Yeah.
I read, I meditate, and I listen to this thing by John Jones actually right before I go out. It talks about the more anxious you are, the more prepared you feel. And I know that makes it's kind of controversial or a little confusing because how can someone anxious be more prepared? But it's like a fire. And I feel like it's something you can control, and then if you can control it, you can play even better. So I like to listen to that before I go out, and then try to have as much fun as I can in the warm-up.
Yeah.
Whether that's joking around or just obviously it's serious, but I'll laugh or I'll listen to the music that's playing in the stadium and probably sing the lyrics that I know to the songs while I'm warming up, and I'll kiss my wrist, which has my mother's name on it, before I go play, and then it's showtime.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think a lot of people really enjoy hearing those kinds of things about, their players. So, next question is most memorable game that you've had with Fort Wayne FC.
Most memorable one. Probably the first one ever.
Yeah.
King's Hammer. That was with Frenchie's bicycle kick in the 83rd minute. I remember that one very clearly because I got to practice one day with the team before I got to play.
Oh, man.
And I didn't, like I said earlier, I did not know one person's name. So it was confusing. But there was so many people, and I heard so much about Fort Wayne before I got here. Our fans are really good. And I was like, oh, okay, we'll see. And then I couldn't even hear myself outside of that. I was like, wow, this is crazy. And we had they had an ultra section. Shout out 3 Regiment.
Yeah.
I was like, what the heck? That's crazy.
Yeah. I'm curious. I'm going to jump in, Dustin, here. The fans, it seems like it's grown since I've been to Fort Wayne FC games, one or two games every season, last couple seasons. It seems like the fan group has grown. The supporters group has grown. What's that like as a player seeing, the culture that is developing in Fort Wayne around a team that you've been pretty significant and an integral piece of the last couple of seasons?
Yeah. With that, I can honestly just say I'm so grateful that I have these fans that come out. I know a lot of them by name, and I've even seen them outside of out of games, going to support. There's this soccer player named Mason and his family, and they come to everything. And I had the opportunity to give back and go watch Carroll Middle School play, and just having somebody, fans like that is honestly a great opportunity to have. And people in 3 Regiments as well, Christina,
Mhm.
and Aaron's fine gallery rug, So just being really personal with the fans makes it just so much more meaningful to play.
Yeah. I was gonna give you a little bit of a hard time because the last 2 home games, you've not been there playing. So we saw you last night. My son was really excited that we saw you out on the field. So you were there in warm-ups, and then you weren't there afterwards. Talk to us about that. Talk to us about what that was.
Yeah, with our team, we have a rotation system,
Yeah.
and it just happened to be my turn, and that's
Yeah.
just how the system goes. And I could be sour about it, but that's not what the team needs. That's not good
Yeah.
for our environment. If I'm gonna
Yeah.
go around sulky, then I feel like that would cause like a cancer for our
Yeah.
team, and we need to win the conference and have a really good run at the playoffs. I
Yeah.
think being positive and feeling what my role is for the day will help us get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I missed warm-ups. We got there right before kickoff. But I did appreciate at the end of the match seeing you and Namik and Jensen out, like cheering and celebrating with the guys there in the front row. That was a lot of fun, seeing you guys be part of that, cheer your teammates on. I will say I've been to the last 2 home games, and I've been looking forward to seeing you play too. I'll catch you in the next one for sure. I've seen you in previous seasons, but this year I haven't caught a game that you played in yet. Hairlift did a great job, and he's played well the last couple games too. So I just love watching good goalkeeping play, and I think Fort Wayne FC has a squad of good goalkeepers led by yourself. And so that's always fun for me. We do have some comments coming in. I threw a couple up on the screen from Christina as you mentioned her name. She said you and your family hold a dear spot in Three Rivers Regiment, and in fact, you were one of the names that came up as we started this podcast. We were talking to people around town just about who are the players that you'd like to hear from, and your name kept coming up. And so we're grateful for you to be part of what we're doing here. I'm curious. We've got a question from my friends at Cincinnati Soccer Talk. It says a lot of good competition in the Valley Division. Who's been the toughest for you over the last 3 seasons? Great question from friends at Cincinnati Soccer Talk.
I'd say at the moment, obviously at the moment right now it's Lexington. I feel a very good side, but overall speaking, I'd say either Kings, Hammer, Cincinnati, or Toledo. Toledo was always scrappy, and they have a fan base as well that's very passionate. So overall, probably either Lexington, Kings, Hammer, or Toledo.
Yeah, it's good. And we've got Lexington coming into town here in a couple of weeks, I believe. So we get to see them live and in person. So, I'm curious, Aurie. Again, fan favorite. Love what you do, and love the fans love you. And so I know you're excited about being here in Fort Wayne, and you've been returning. I've been curious though, like there's been some consistency in this team in the last couple seasons, it seems. But there's always some turnover every year as players graduate from college or move on, play for other teams, do something different. What is it like adjusting from year to year to new players? Maybe a higher rate of turnover in this league than in other leagues beyond this.
Yeah. Obviously, there's a lot of good players over the last 3 seasons. In every one of these seasons I've played in, there's a numerous amount of players who are playing professionally. And I can guarantee that from this year, there will definitely be professionals as well. So the question isn't, can we have talented guys? Because obviously talented guys help win games, but what system are we going to be implementing that can help our success? And I think the system that we have with Coach Mike and Keelan out there giving us instruction and very specific things like hot seat, something we do to like build chemistry with our team, the Fort Wayne starting 11 with values of our team. I think those things impact not only just the way we play soccer, but reasons why we play, what we want to get done, and those things.
Yeah. I'm going to throw, I know Mike has got a couple questions for you. I'm going to put one up in the chat first, still related to Fort Wayne FC. Sierra and Dalton, I think that's how you say it. What's your favorite part about playing for Fort Wayne? There must be something to this.
No, Kieran's one of my old teammates from Rutgers. I love Kieran. He's a great guy, great goalkeeper. I think he's currently training at Minnesota United right now. One of my favorite parts of playing at Fort Wayne, probably playing at Bishop Darcy is probably one of my favorite parts about playing at Fort Wayne. Just playing in front of the fans and getting to sign autographs after, and not only just to sign my name on somebody's shirt, but to hear, I'll ask, what's your name? What position do you play? And those things are very important to me.
Yeah, very good. Mike, I'll toss it to you.
Yeah, I'm curious. So your name, when we talked with Christina at Three Rivers Regiment, your name was the first one that came up. One of her favorite players, and you've obviously had a very successful career. Going back to the call up with the national team, like, what is it like for the young player to get called into a national team camp and be part of that group?
Honestly, I was surprised at first, not because I don't think I'm not good enough, but that to represent a country, an island that I dearly love is very special to me. A lot of family on the island, and culturally, it's very important to me. One thing that shocked me a lot when I got there was just the range of quality. I got to play with people who played on MLS teams in La Liga, and just seeing the professionalism on that side was something very, very eye-opening.
Yeah. So you'll be at Butler next year. What are your plans after Butler? Like, where do you want to go? Where do you think that you'll end up?
My dream ever since I started playing soccer was to play professionally. And if I have the opportunity and pleasure and honor of playing for Fort Wayne when they go USL 1, I would love to take that.
Has there been any talks about that? Because we, personally speaking, I think you're a great goalkeeper. I would love to see you, right? I'd love to continue to watch you.
I think I would love to have them in my mind. But at the moment, I think what's more important right now is winning this conference in this league. So I can't confirm if anything.
Well, we'd say we all want you to. Pretty much everyone would love for you to be.
Yeah, I like that though. Keeping the what's in front of you in front of you, like the next game this season. I like that. Perform now, and you got that opportunity, right?
Exactly.
Potentially next season. So. We'll talk a little bit later in the show with our hosts here about the U.S. men's national team, the CONCACAF Gold Cup coming up. Curious, your perspective on CONCACAF and any predictions for the Gold Cup this year. Does the U.S. Here's the big question: does the U.S. make it out of their group? What do you think?
It's funny because it was just a couple of years ago. We were in the Gold Cup qualifiers for PR. So
yeah.
Although I was born in America, I was soft-side and a bias for PR. They're currently going through the qualifiers right now. So, vamos Puerto Rico, ya tú sabes. I hope they go through. So, I'll say them.
Yeah. Good call there. So you're heading back. We talked about Butler University. And I know you've been to Rutgers, you've been here in Fort Wayne, you've made that transition back and forth between the league here and back to the college level. What is that transition like? And I'm curious, when do you make that transition from Fort Wayne FC to get back to train with your college team before that season really gets started?
Yeah, it's interesting because like you said, the transition from college to or from Fort Wayne to college is very different depending on the player. Some colleges want their players back July 15th. Some even want them in by the end of June. For me, it was very important when I was talking with Coach Snape, who was my head coach at Butler, that I need to stay at Fort Wayne and I need to see it through. And fortunately, he's granted me the time to be here as long as we go. So the further we go, there's no pressure of, what what if I need to go back now? Like my coach is gonna get mad at me. You know, I let it be known that Fort Wayne is a priority for me, and I need to be here as long as we're going.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate that as fans for sure, but certainly don't want you to miss out on the things you have to do and perform at the college level too. So, Aurie, we appreciate you coming on the program tonight, coming on the show. We're looking forward to seeing you play whatever next home match you play in. We'd love to get some people out to travel to see some Fort Wayne FC matches coming up here soon on the road. Anything else you'd like to share that we didn't get to tonight that people in Fort Wayne need to know about Aurie Briscoe and your playing, your family, anything like that you'd like to share?
One thing is definitely, my mom was so excited to see this podcast because she loves this podcast. She's watching every week. So, speaking about how Fort Wayne is so connected with family, after every game, Christina and Eric will always come up to me and always ask me, when's your mom coming out? When's your mom coming out? Because it's just so family. She's like, she needs to come out and do like the tailgate with us. I was like, I don't know if you can do all that, but like, you can definitely chill with them, So
yeah,
it just goes to show how deep Fort Wayne runs.
Yeah. Is your mom still in Puerto Rico?
Oh no, my mother lives in the United States.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully we'll get her out to a game and you get to introduce her around to all your friends and Fort Wayne family sometime soon. Aurie, thanks again, man, for being part of the show. Love what you do, love what you bring to Fort Wayne, and glad you feel welcomed here. And hopefully we'll see you not just in future games, but in future seasons here in Fort Wayne.
Thank you as well.
Yeah, man. Hey, if I could ask you just for a moment, kind of backstage talk, if you could stay on for just a few minutes till your segment finishes uploading, and when you see that it's complete, you can stay on and listen, or you can feel free to jump off. Either way, but we appreciate you being here, man. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aurie.
All right. I see why everybody likes him as much as
and we had more comments than we've had with any other guest on our show.
We have,
which is really cool.
And sorry we didn't get to all of those. Let me throw a couple up here while we're talking. We had from Mason Tufts. He just said, "Hey, Aurie, appreciate the shout out and hope to play on the team one day." So it sounds like there's a young player that really is looking at you and in his development and his future. We had one. I assume is this a relative, Sydney Briscoe? Such a great player. What's your pregame routine? We got that earlier in the show there. And then Christina again, keep Aurie in Fort Wayne. # keep Aurie in Fort Wayne 2026. I think that would be
I like that hashtag.
Great. I like that hashtag.
Yeah.
Did you guys know, by the way, not everybody gets shout outs on the show, but Christina's birthday was yesterday. I believe she's celebrating her birthday at the game. So happy birthday there, Christina. Yeah. Hey, let's talk about that game. How about we do that? That game last night was something special. I know Dustin and I were there live. Micah, you watched the replay just before we got on the show tonight. Crazy match that ended in a 4-2 victory for Fort Wayne FC. Micah, I'll start with you because you weren't there live. It's fresh in your mind. You just got done watching it before the show. What did you see? What stood out to you in this match?
I saw Fort Wayne dominate play in the first half, right? And I saw a lot of just rough, kind of chippy play. And I saw a lot of reactions from the Dayton team where, especially with coach, where it was a lot of hands flying in the air, a lot of arguing with referees. And I think that negatively impacted Dayton, where they weren't focused on the game, weren't focused on the play at hand. I'll tell my teams all the time, say what you want about referees. And no offense to referees, we probably have a couple that are listening, but I expect calls not to go my way. I expect, for lack of a better term, refereeing just to be poor, right? So one thing that I'll tell my team is I don't care what happens to you. I care how you respond. And that's what I look for out of my teams. I saw that Dayton team just focus more on the referees and the play at hand. You saw that change after halftime. I would have loved to hear what was said in the locker room. But once Dayton started focusing a little bit more on their play, then they were able to take the game a little bit to Fort Wayne. And Coach Avery admitted it was probably not one of the strongest games that they've played. But at the end of the day, a win is a win, right? When you score more goals than the other team, the conversation's a little different had the scoreline stayed 2-2. So, good result, but I think they can play a little bit better, especially in the second half. I don't think we played all that well.
Yeah. So the referees, we talk about this, right? Interesting that you led with that, because I wanted to get to that eventually, Micah. Dustin, you and I were texting back and forth during the match. Not that I couldn't have run up 5 rows and talked to you, but
we did at the end.
We did a little bit. Your kids needed more of those boom whackers, so I had to make sure they got those before the end of the game. Watching it live, though, there's a difference when I watch a game. Replay or live on TV is different than the way I watch it live and in person. I'm enjoying the game. I'm enjoying the atmosphere. But man, I told Micah pre-show that I totally understand why Dayton's coach was throwing his arms up in the air. It felt like Fort Wayne benefited from a lot of calls early, at least early in the match. Did you feel the same way?
So I felt like early in the match they did, and then I even texted you and said towards the end of the match, about halfway through second half, I felt like there were a lot of makeup calls for Dayton. So I kind of felt like they could have gone the opposite way. So I felt like overall the refs were not the greatest for both teams, to be completely honest. I felt like there was maybe a little bit of a slant towards Fort Wayne in the first half. Second half, I felt like it went kind of both ways. But it was chippy. I mean, it was a hard game. It was a hard game to play because both sides were very aggressive. And so you could fault them. You could say that they weren't great. There's a lot of people that are agreeing with us in relationship to that. But at the same time, I mean, how do you, it's hard. And we talked about this a lot. When it's chippy play, when it's aggressive play, you want to not let it get out of hand, but then you also want them, let them play, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's a delicate balance between the two. And how do you do that when, I don't know. So I would say we could argue about the refs were not well, didn't do well last night. There's an argument for that. But that being
referees they have a tough job. Like let's
do.
be real, especially with the pace of play. And you said it exactly, where it's that difference between making the call and then letting a play go on, right?
Yeah.
Like referees, I know they don't want to be at the center of attention.
Right.
They don't want to be at the center of the game. They don't want to decide these games.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and this is exactly, instead of talking about the game, focusing on the game, we're spent 3 minutes talking about referees, right?
Yeah.
So I think we're kind of like this is a great example. We're not focusing on where we should. And it's a fast-paced game, especially at this level. It is chaotic at times. You know, so it's tough, and I don't want to give referees that hard of a time, because we need referees, right?
Yeah, we do.
Like, the more we talk about them, especially like this, the less referees will have, right?
Yeah.
So they have a tough job.
Yeah.
And watching the replay, I didn't see anything egregious. I didn't see anything that would really say like one way or the other that, oh, they missed this call and missed call. Some questionable decisions, but they made a decision, and
you roll with it, right?
So,
yeah. So I was gonna say, this is Fort Wayne Footy, not Fort Wayne referee talk, right? Didn't intend to go down that road so long, but it is interesting to see the comments come in that I wasn't alone in the way I felt about some of the calls and decisions made last night. But it's part of the game. Mike, I love what you said about, I don't expect perfection. You said it
Mhm.
differently, but I'm just going to say I don't expect perfection, and I just expect my team to roll with it and
Mhm.
react and respond differently. So,
And I felt
I
like Fort Wayne did. I felt
yeah,
like out of the 2 teams, Fort Wayne rolled with it very well and didn't get too caught up in it, towards the end of the game with the little argument and,
right.
a little bit of a fight. I mean, that's just because 'cause you're passionate
We're
about
not
the
there
game.
yet, Dustin.
I know,
Nobody
I'm just
knows
saying.
that yet, Dustin.
But I think overall, Fort Wayne handled it pretty well. Number
Yeah.
19 on Dayton he got a yellow card and almost got a second yellow complete like in the second
Mhm.
half, to be completely honest. Not a
Yeah.
fan of him as a player. But that being said, Fort Wayne handled it pretty well. I felt like Reed handled himself pretty well because he was dealing with a lot of that as well. And so out of the 2 teams, I felt like Fort Wayne handled the aggressiveness and the maybe not so great of refereeing better than Dayton did, because Dayton reacted very, very poorly to any call that was made.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that. I'm sorry, Brian, but I think a lot of that starts with the coach, right?
Yeah.
Like you look at Coach Avery's demeanor on the sidelines; he's very calculated, not emotional. He doesn't get into that, and I think that is the message that he sends to his team as well. So, a lot of credit to Coach Avery, um, sending the right messages to his team.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's get into a little bit more of the game beyond the referees. Fort Wayne scores in the first half, go into halftime, 1-0. Beautiful corner to Tiago Diaz on the back post coming
Mhm.
in. I was watching. I couldn't tell if it took a deflection off of somebody else as he headed it down, if it hit somebody else or it just went in. But beautiful play, beautiful header. Something we saw last Saturday. Those corners going to the back post constantly, and we talked about the tall defender for Kingshammer Cincinnati, just always there.
Mhm.
This time Tiago won the ball on the back post, puts it in the net. It was beautiful play.
Mhm.
1-0 at halftime. Fort Wayne comes out once again. I think this is 3 home games in a row. They score within the first 5 minutes of the second half. I would love to hear, and maybe we should have asked Aurie this earlier, what Coach Avery says and does at halftime that gets the team fired up and attacking so aggressively early on in the second half. So I ran out to get something to drink at halftime, right? I'm coming up the steps. I would have been there to see the goal. Here's what happened, guys. Let me tell you this. I ordered a Pepsi for my mom and a Diet Mountain Dew for me. And I got a Mountain Dew, not a Diet Dew. And I was halfway up the steps and I was like, wait, that's not what I ordered. And I took it back down 3 times. I exchanged it with the guy before we finally found, he kept giving me a Mountain Dew. Finally got my Diet Dew. I get up to the top of the steps and the ball's going in the back of the net. And Dustin tells me, you should stay out there. Go to the concessions more often. We score when you're not in the
I
stands.
said your concession trips bode well for our team. Last week it was, remember, you went up and talked to some friends, so you weren't sitting with us and we scored. And then this week it was the concession set. So Kendra saw you walking and she was like, was Brian not here for that goal again this time? So that's when I texted you and I'm like, you know what? You should take more concession trips.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I actually like to be there to see the goals scored. So I think I'll stay. And I think it's not me. I think it's whatever the team does
Yeah,
and adjustments they
absolutely.
make at halftime. I actually turned to a guy that was with me and I said, watch Oliveira score in the first 5 minutes as he's done the last couple games here in the second half. And it wasn't him. It was Beerbrunn that put it in off a missed bicycle attempt. That would have been beautiful, right? The ball slips by and he was there on the back post to finish. Beautiful play, beautiful goal. And then a few minutes later, there's a play down the sideline where I forget who it was from Fort Wayne, took out a player from Dayton. The ball rolls, no foul called. Ball continues to go. Dayton player picks it up, couple touches, goes to send the ball across, and it gets blocked out of bounds. And then the whistle blows. It's he was letting it play advantage, right? We talked about this, right, Micah, a few episodes ago.
I think I was pretty
calls,
fired up about it. Yeah,
You were.
yeah. And it was one of those plays where Dustin texted me and he was like, We just talked about that advantage. He called it after the guy touched it 3 or 4 times. They scored soon after. Dayton scores their first goal soon after. Few minutes after that, no, it wasn't a few minutes after that. It was about 30 minutes after that. They scored their second goal, and I said, and there's the 2-0 dangerous score that we talked about a few weeks ago with Coach Avery. Like, why is 2-0 so dangerous? Well, you get the first goal, and now momentum changes. It took a while, but we finished 90 minutes. They finished 90 minutes with a 2-2 score. And then chaos.
That's the best way to, that's the best way.
In the last 3 minutes, there were 3 minutes of added time. And you'll notice if you look at the rundown or you look at the recap of the game, Fort Wayne scores in the 96th minute and the 98th minute of 3 minutes of extra time. So you know something went down.
Sure
Dustin,
did.
you were there.
Yeah.
You were live. What, for those that missed the match, what did they miss in extra time?
So I felt like what we thought in live was a potential. We thought it was offsides. We couldn't see. We didn't have a great view of it. Looking back on it, and Micah, you said this. You looked at the when you went back through it. He was actually onsides. So it was an onside play turned into a PK, and then Dayton just got obnoxious. Honestly, they were just obnoxious, standing in front of the ball, getting mouthy. Sproat was over the ball. They're getting mouthy with Sproat. I gained a ton of respect for Reed Sproat in that game to watch how he handled that whole situation. And I thought it was hilarious that he was standing over the ball and they were all getting in his face, and then he walked away from it and he didn't even take the kick. And so that was awesome. And then it just kind of, again, you said chaos. It just got out of hand. And I saw Christina asked what were our thoughts on the handling of the PK fiasco at the end of the game. It was just interesting to see how involved they were in relationship throughout the refs throughout the entire game. And they kind of let that play out way longer than what I felt like it should have. They didn't put an end to it. They didn't there was really no involvement whatsoever. And it lasted a while. We ended up, we kick it into the net. It was a pretty awesome goal. And then 3 minutes later, we get a breakaway, and 2 guys, everybody was up for Dayton, trying to push up to get some score. We kick a ball out and drive down and score that 4th goal to go ahead 4-2. It was crazy in the stands. Everyone was on their feet. Everyone was yelling. It was nuts. I loved it, to be honest. I loved the chaotic aspect of it, loved watching it. I'm sure being a player, it was not the best to be a part of, but just the adrenaline of everybody in the stands, seeing Briscoe, seeing Namek down there getting all excited about it. It was probably one of the best live experiences that I've had for a Fort Wayne FC game, for sure.
Thankfully, it went
to
the good guys, right?
Yes,
it went our direction.
Right.
Micah, you weren't there live to feel the intensity of the moment, right? But you were watching it on the replay. You had a different perspective. I thought, oh my gosh, I turned around and went, he's 3 yards offside before that penalty was called. Unless there's a backside defender that I missed, and you corrected me, and when you watched the replay, tell us what you saw.
Yeah, I had to read. I kept going back 10 seconds, let it play out, back 10 seconds, let it play out. It was close. But it was a legit goal. That there's a defender on the backside, and from the perspective that I had, now keep in mind I don't have VAR, so I can't draw lines. It's not exact, but I think Evans had about half a yard on that backside defender. So referees did a good job. Right.
Yep.
So they did a good job.
We don't have lines for VAR, but we've got football lines on that stadium turf.
True.
And so as I watched it back, as you told me that, I went, oh yeah, you're right. I was convinced he was offside by 3 yards before he played that ball. So good goal there. Second goal in extra time, maybe a little more questionable, but at that point, Does it matter? Look like the ball is played forward, player running ahead of the ball. Potentially, I don't know. Again, that one was a little harder to tell with the football lines because of the angle of the ball being played and the timing of the run. So either way, Fort Wayne FC, with that fourth goal or not, comes out with the victory, the 3 points in that match to keep them ahead of the Valley Division. And as I looked, guys, there are, I was going to say this later in the show, but if there's, I think USL2, the league is quite interesting because there's so many divisions, there's so many teams. I think I went through this afternoon and I think I counted like 144 teams in all of USL2. They're just playing all over in small, tight regions that play each other. And Fort Wayne FC has one of the best records in all of the league of 144 teams, which is pretty fantastic. Even some of the teams that are top of their division have dropped matches. Fort Wayne continues to be undefeated with I believe it's a 5-0-1 record at this point. So good team, good chemistry, lots of fun to watch. The couple things. Well, we talked about the 2-0 thing a few weeks ago, right? We talked about that a little bit earlier tonight. Several yellow cards in the match. It was quite physical, which is a fun match to watch. You hate it when your guys get yellow cards, but it's a fun match to watch. And so Dayton came out pretty physical, scored their first 2 goals of the season, as I understand, against Fort Wayne FC. So maybe things are looking up for Dayton, but we're here to talk about Fort Wayne, and we appreciate Fort Wayne. We do appreciate Ryan Gallagher last week from Dayton Dutch Lions, or GM, being on our show. He was not able to make the match. I was trying to connect with him, and he ended up in Louisville with the Dayton Dutch Lions women's team. He had to travel with them and wasn't able to be in Fort Wayne. So hopefully next time we'll get to catch him. The uniforms we talked about last week were pretty sweet on the field. I had to mention that. Really appreciated Dayton's unis there. So Fort Wayne's back in action later this week. We'll talk about that later in the show. The other team that we've been covering, 1927 SC, had a game this today, actually earlier this afternoon, up in Grand Rapids against Midwest United U23s. I talked to Dave that was on our program on one of our first couple episodes. I got to get out to the fields and talk to him the other day while they were training and just get to know a little bit about what they're doing and I saw some new faces. There's some young guys, high school players that have just finished their club season. Dustin, I know you know a couple of them, 1 or 2 of them that came out that are playing. So I love what they're doing. I love that they're getting young players engaged. I know that it's not showing out on the field quite yet, but it's getting some guys some exposure to a different level, a higher level of play. Micah, just throw a question your way about that. How important is that for you? Like if you were, I know you're coaching high school women's team, but and I don't know if the same opportunities exist, maybe with Summit City United potentially. But as a coach, knowing that some of your players are getting exposure to maybe a higher level and getting to travel to different places to play higher level teams, higher level athletes, and then coming back to your high school squad later in the summer.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of that, I mean, we can go back to Coach Avery's interview a couple weeks ago where he talked about the diversity of thought. Anytime you can get one of your players to play at a high level or play at a higher level and get new ideas about the game and interact with people who might see the game differently, they then bring those ideas back to your team, and then it almost snowballs from there, where then it increases the level of your team because there's that one extra thought. So anytime any of my players have an opportunity to play even outside of my teams at a different level with different teams, it benefits everybody. So especially from a coach where you're trying to develop and get your players into a situation where they're going to have these opportunities, I think it's awesome. I think it's great.
Yeah. I love that, though, what you said about picking up new ideas, new styles of play, and bringing them back. I do think that's a key that maybe is overlooked a lot is, people are getting exposure. People are looking at them for what they can bring to this other team, or college coaches are looking at them. But the fact that they are bringing some of that back to this team that the players that they're playing with now can benefit from. I think that's an overlooked aspect to things like this. So I that's just good insight. They are back in action this Wednesday night, actually, at Fort Wayne Sport Club. It's a non-league friendly against who is it? Hoosier Premier Academy is coming to town. 7 p.m. game. Dustin, I know you've been to a match earlier this season. Get out and support. Dustin talked very highly about the atmosphere at those games and what it's like. And this one's non-league. It's a friendly, but it's going to be a good team coming to town. So it'll be a good match to get out to. Hopefully the weather looks good on Wednesday night. Now that kids aren't in school, you can get out to Fort Wayne Sport Club and enjoy a match. Cheap entrance.
It can't beat $5 to get in.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything else happening Wednesday night except my son's volleyball banquet. So unfortunately, I can't make
some tryouts
that game. Oh yeah, and some tryouts. We'll be out. So if you're out there for tryouts, maybe pop over where your kids are trying out. Pop over to the Fort Wayne FC or 1927 SC match there on field number 4. All right, guys. There's going to be a lot of soccer to talk about next week. We've got 2 matches for 1927 SC, the friendly we just mentioned. They do travel to Grand Rapids to play Grand Rapids SC next Saturday. So we'll cover that. We'll talk about that match next week. Fort Wayne FC travels to Cincinnati to play Kingshammer again for the second time this season already. The season seems so short and so compact. We were just watching them and talking about them playing Kingshammer Cincinnati last weekend, and they're traveling down there to play them again. And as Aurie said earlier in the show, if you missed the early part of the show, go back and check out our interview with Aurie Briscoe. He talked about Kingshammer Cincinnati being a team to watch and a team that may give them some fits here this season and on. To give a little bit of a preview, I know Dustin, you're looking at me like I'm confused. I'm looking at our rundown, right? To give a little preview, the season for Fort Wayne Footy anyway, the season for Fort Wayne FC and the season for 1927 that we've been talking about primarily is a really compact and really short season. And so people have asked us, what are you guys going to do after the season? Like, there's a lot of time. It's a 2-month or 2.5-month season. What are you going to do? I'm excited about even looking beyond Fort Wayne FC season and 1927 SC season, because soccer never ends. Micah, you said it earlier. We just finished club season and you're already rolling into high school camps, right? Players are coming back to their high school teams, working with their high school coaches. They're doing some individual training. That's all stuff that I'm looking forward to covering. High school soccer. We've talked to some potential guests coming on the show later on, talking about youth player development. I was talking to someone yesterday at my son's grad party about what's happening at St. Joe Soccer and how players are getting exposed to the game there. So there's just a lot of soccer coming up beyond the Fort Wayne FC season that we can cover. So I'm curious, guys. I just want to throw it to you. Beyond this season, what is something that maybe you as a host of the show are excited to get into here on Fort Wayne Footy?
I think for me, and I'm going to throw this out here, but I think we need to get some referees in here. And
all right.
Refs need love too, right? They need love too. So maybe that's a potential that we can incorporate referees into it. But from a soccer standpoint, I said it earlier, I'm just looking forward to just a great summer of soccer. A lot of high quality international matches, club matches coming up.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we got the Gold Cup coming up, which I know we're going to talk about here in just a little bit, but we've got that coming up. We've got high schools starting up, and I think we have a lot of really good local high schools, boys and girls. Not just saying it because Micah, you're on the podcast, but I think we have some really quality teams that, I think they deserve to be talked about and they deserve to be kind of elevated. And so I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Yeah, just to give a little preview, again, what's coming up. We won't get into that too much now, but there's so much to talk about moving on beyond the season. But we have a season still to talk about, and we're excited about what's happening and continuing to talk about that season. But here's the thing, guys. If you're listening and we've talked about this the last couple of weeks here. If you're listening, you have some news to report about your team, your high school team, your club team, even what's happening at some of the developmental leagues, PDA leagues, the St. Joe leagues, C3 Soc, anything like that. We would love to just highlight it, that maybe have a team of the week or highlight of the week and just share what's happening. Again, because we want to celebrate what's happening around town in the world of soccer and elevate that, just get it out in front of people, expand our knowledge of the game, and celebrate what's happening in our area. So let us know. Send us an email to info@fortwaynefooty.com or leave us a message here in the chat or on Facebook. We are on Instagram now. I don't know if you guys knew that. I just put that out there this last week. We are on Instagram now at Fort Wayne Footy or here on YouTube. We'd love to hear from you and just celebrate what you've got going on and tell people about it. One thing we do want to mention, we talked about a few weeks ago, but as the date nears, is June 28th, Saturday, June 28th, Fort Wayne FC plays Atlas U23s. Atlas is a Liga MX team that plays in Mexico. Coming up here, they're sending their U23 squad to play at Bishop Darcy Stadium. Again, they do this, I believe, every season. I was there for the Chivas game a couple seasons ago. Incredible atmosphere. I would love to see Bishop Darcy Stadium packed out for that match. So again, it's June 28th. Would love to see you there. Tickets, you can buy tickets now at Fort Wayne FC's website. Let us know if you're going to be there too. Maybe we'll do something special. Oh, we should do something special for that game. Sometimes I talk and get ahead of myself with no plans, but we should do something special at that game, guys. Don't let me forget that. So, all right. Hey, as we wrap up our time here on Fort Wayne Footy, we always have this extra time segment that's something that maybe has nothing to do with anything we talked about yet, but it's still something relevant in the world of soccer that we love to talk about. The U.S. men's national team. There's a lot happening, a lot of news swirling around the U.S. men's national team. Had a game recently against Turkey that didn't go so well. We've got the Gold Cup coming up, and there's a lot of shifting and, people in and out of the roster for various reasons. I didn't see the match yesterday against Turkey or recently against Turkey. I'm going to toss it to you guys because I know there was some bad things happening in that match that U.S. men's national team fans are not happy about as we look to the Gold Cup. Dustin?
I just feel like we talked about it a few weeks ago when we first brought this up, talking about the main guy, like our starters not coming for the Gold Cup, to not take the opportunity to come and play. And we said this could be an opportunity for these young guys that are getting their opportunity for the U.S. men's team to prove themselves. They did not prove themselves yesterday by any means whatsoever. Now, and Micah, we kind of talked about this beforehand, but some big mistakes, some young player mistakes that occurred that we're now 0-3 in the last 3 games that the U.S. men have played. Canada, we said Panama, and now Turkey.
Yeah.
And we're a year away from hosting the World Cup. Our team, I was watching the Europe, the Spain and Portugal game today and watching them play. When you look at our team and you look at those teams, we're nowhere near the quality of what those teams are. And they've got Ronaldo was playing today. He was playing for his national team. I don't know. As I look at it, it's a little scary.
Yeah, I feel we should be farther along, especially with results. And judging a team just on results is always difficult because it's black and white. You win or you lose. But at the end of the day, at that level, winning is really all that matters. And Pochettino is now 5-4, like he's barely 500 as a head coach. I am concerned. I'm trying to stay positive about it. Like there were some bright spots. That goal that they scored in the first minute was pure class. And if Malik Tillman, I think he had an opportunity almost a free header on the back post off a service, might have still been from Arston as well, who I think had a great game. Or no, it was McGlynn who scored the goal. It might have been off his service as well.
Mhm.
If he gets that goal in, right, if he plays that header a little bit, 6 inches one way or the other, it's tied 2-2, and we're not really having this conversation. So I don't know. At the end of the day, like, I think it's that American pride that we have where we should be winning these games regardless. But I have faith still. We have a group stage of Saudi Arabia, of who are the
Trinidad and Tobago and Haiti are in the
Well,
group for the Gold Cup.
TNT still scares me. So Trinidad, I still have nightmares about that cold, rainy day in 2017 or whatever it is. So we need results.
I will say, you said this. I mean, Pochettino did inherit a little bit of a mess. I will give him that. He inherited, a team that was just not meshing well together, that was not playing well, and he's trying to restart it. So that's the one bright that I see, is that he's kind of changing the play. He's changing the mentality of the guys, which hopefully is in a positive mindset. But
but he's doing it, Dustin, without guys like Pulisic
correct.
and Weston McKennie, and he's doing it without the guys that have been mainstays that we've looked at as maybe our team's not winning, but we do have these players that still have the potential, that are still carrying teams in Europe, that are still doing it well. They are not there.
Right.
So I'm debating in my mind, is it a good thing or a bad thing that he's inherited a mess? He's trying to change culture, but he's doing it with, number two guy, not always number two guys, right? But 2s and 3s at times, not the guys that we've looked to as the number ones. Maybe there's some guys shifting and moving into those starting spots. But he's not doing it with the guys that we've looked to for answers for years, right? And so I don't know if that's good or bad. It is happening. Predictions as we wrap up the show. Does the United States, we asked Aurie this earlier, does the United States make it out of this group? I know they should, but do they make it out of this group?
I think they'll make it out of the group. I don't see them advancing.
Pause in that. The hesitation scares me. Mike, go ahead.
Christina Copeland just dropped a message. Maybe they should ask Emma Hayes for some coaching tips, right? Like, and as a coach of girls, like U.S. men or U.S. women's national team, they had a match too. They played extremely well. And we're not talking about it.
Yeah.
I think maybe that should be the conversation, and and let the men kind of figure it out. But I think we have a really solid women's team with some of the best players in the world. I love Emma Hayes. I think her messaging is exactly what the team needs. I think she's a great coach. So I don't know. I have more women's national team games on my calendar than I have men's at this point.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe you're right. Maybe that should be the conversation. But I think in my head, part of it's like, of course they're going to win. Like, that's the U.S. women's national team. So maybe we've taken it for granted for so long. Of course they won their game. Of course they're best in the world. We should be talking about that more and highlighting that more. But negative news about the U.S. men's national team seems to be the thing that is out there more right now that maybe we're falling victim to.
Yeah.
And the women are winning without their top players either, right?
Correct.
Sophia Smith didn't play. Mel, I was going to say Mel Pugh, Swanson. Sorry, Trinity Rodman. Like, so they're playing with some of their, second choice, maybe, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to put that label on that. They're second
traditional
choice,
starters. We'll say
yes.
Yeah.
Man, that's a good word there, Dustin.
I will say, so Brian, to answer your question of will the men make it out of group stage? I think to not answer your question, I think if they don't make it out of the group stage, we have a much deeper issue to talk about moving into the World Cup.
Yeah. Agreed. There's could be a lot there to talk about moving forward. I remembered, it reminds me as I saw some of the teams we'll be playing. I traveled to Nicaragua a few years ago, and it happened to be on the day the United States was playing Nicaragua. And our driver that picked us up was listening to the game, and I had been on a flight and didn't hear much. And I was like, how's the game going? And he was like, it's 0-0 right now. We're playing well, but we're going to lose. We always lose. We never win games, especially against you. And I'm like, I don't know anymore. You never know. So I agree. We should make it out of the match or make it out of the group. If we don't, there's a big issue. We'll talk more about that. And maybe we'll talk more U.S. women's national team and their success that they've been having recently and moving forward. Guys, thanks for joining me here on Fort Wayne Footy. We had a lot of folks in the chat tonight. Thank you to those of you who stuck around the whole hour and plus 5 minutes or so and engaging conversation with Aurie Briscoe from Fort Wayne FC. It was great. Great interview. Thanks for being here. We will talk to you. I can't talk anymore. It's too late. We will see you next week.